All right, it's 12 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody, to the final live presentation for the Professional Development Certificate Summer 2025. We're really glad that you're here. My name is Maggie Erickson. I'm the Assistant Director for Career Development, and I run the Professional Development Certificate Program. I'm also the founder of the Career Innovation Lab, where we use generative AI and life design thinking to help you imagine what your future life and career can look like. Helping me today, I have Judah Slack, one of our career innovation interns. And Judah, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Awesome. Hi, I'm Judah Slack. I am a generative AI and business research here, or an intern here at the Career Innovation Lab. I'm a rising senior, econ major, AI minor. So I am loving everything here the CIO has provided for me.
All right. Well, thank you all. We're going to get started today. We're talking about professional communication. And I was just on a call with leaders with the South Carolina Department of Employee Workforce Development. And they were talking about the large communication gaps between folks who are in the working world today. So, boomers, Gen Xers, of which I'm a group, in the group, millennials, and then Gen Z, you all who are entering the workforce, and the expectations around communication there are so very different. And so that's why we wanted to take some time today to talk about what you can expect when you're communicating with people who have different generational perspectives and values and modes of communication. So I will kick it off with our slide we always start with. If you could scan the QR code, enter your Clemson email address to let us know that you've attended today. And if you're watching the recording and you're part of the professional development certificate, you also should scan the QR code and enter your Clemson email address so that we know you attended the recorded version of this webinar. And then you'll also receive a copy of the presentation and the CCPD resources referenced. If you're a part of the Professional Development Certificate course on Canvas, you'll get them there. If you are not, we will email them to you when we check who has attended this periodically, so about once a month. All right, well, welcome. We're glad you're here. We always start with our mission statement. And it's our job to engage you, students, in career development and experiential learning activities like this workshop today that will empower you to successfully pursue your educational and professional goals. In other words, we don't give a person a fish, we teach them to fish. And so we're hoping to help you develop skills that will serve you for the rest of your life because studies tell us that Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Z tend to change jobs much more frequently than boomers did. And so you'll be going through the job application process and communicating with people of different generations often. And so it's just good to develop those skills now. And I'm really glad that you all are all here. Our commitment to inclusivity, it's a lot of words on the screen, and they're all very important. But to sum it up, you have a seat at the table. If you're a Clemson student watching this live or recorded, you have a seat at the table, regardless of your background, perspectives, beliefs, what you look like. You belong here. And so we always want to make you feel welcome and included. So let's talk about our workshop goals today. We just have four very simple workshop goals around professional communication. We're going to understand generational communication styles. And then we're going to avoid common pitfalls, apply best practices, and hopefully we will be enhancing your professional communication. And you'll have a chance to practice that in Canvas with your assignment. But before we start, I want to know from you, what is your preferred communication mode? In person, text, snap, any kind of communication mode. If you will drop that in the chat, and then Judah, if you will share.
Indeed. So far, we have one person saying in person, another saying it depends, another one saying I prefer in person, another text or call.
Okay, I love the variety here. I'm also really interested about the in person. I feel like I want to know a little bit more about that. Is anybody willing to come off mute and share why you said in person?
I could speak a little bit about it.
Thanks, Payne.
Do you want my camera on or?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries. Um, yeah, I would just say in person is the most valuable to me because it allows us to really get to read each other. You pick up on cues that you can't pick up over the phone, and through text. So it's the most valuable communication to me just for that reason alone. And I think you make the most meaningful connections through in person as well.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. Payne, I'm curious, is it okay if I ask which generation you're part of?
Yes, I'm part of Gen Z.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense to me then that you prefer in person. I also I let's see, X, Y, Z. Nope. I'm surprised actually that you prefer in person
Okay.
because I'm mixing up. I'm like, nope, he didn't say Gen X, he said Gen Z.
Yeah.
I think the perception of Gen Z is that you all prefer digital communication. And so it's really interesting to me that you said in person.
Yeah, I don't use a lot of social media or anything, so I definitely prefer in-person communication. But I
I
mean
love that you're busting the stereotypes for us today.
text and phone call works, but it's just not as valuable to me.
I
But
love it. Thanks for sharing.
no worries.
All right, who what else did we hear?
So Mars O'Keefe also said he prefers in person.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks y'all for sharing. That's really helpful. And you really are busting some stereotypes here today. All right. So let's start with the core competencies. We talk about these in every one of our presentations because they're core to what we do. No pun intended. And I would say that effective email and LinkedIn communication, which we're focusing on today, is really critical to your professional growth and success. And it helps you demonstrate skills in the core competencies, including, well, obviously, communication. That's an obvious one. Your clarity and professionalism in sharing ideas verbally or in writing. That's really important. But also in collaboration, your ability to build respectful, inclusive connections through your communication really matters and can make you a better collaborator. I think it has an impact on leadership. If you have a thoughtful approach to the context and the audience and your channel selection, that can put you forward as a leader compared to your peers. And then adaptability. Your willingness and readiness to manage diverse professional scenarios and to choose the right mode of communication at the right time can really help strengthen your adaptability. And then leadership and integrity together. When you have a commitment to ethical and responsible interactions, that really shows respect. And that also shows an integrity of you're trying to put your best foot forward consistently. And I think mastering these skills will help set you apart as a capable, career ready professional. So, also, we often talk about brand under professionalism, and people get confused. They think we're talking about like the brand Microsoft or the company brand, but we're actually talking about your personal brand when we say brand under professionalism. And how you approach your emails and LinkedIn messages and just communication in general really reflects your personal brand. And so, strong communication skills will demonstrate critical thinking, adaptability, leadership. That can have a direct influence on how others perceive your professionalism. And so I think it's a worthy thing to spend some time considering what this looks like in the workplace. So let's talk about generational communication styles, starting with baby boomers or the boomer generation. These are folks that were born between 1946 and 1964. So the youngest boomer right now is 61. And so there are still plenty of those in the world of work right now. Many of them may be in leadership or senior executive roles. Baby boomers typically prefer formal, in person, or phone communication. They highly value etiquette and nuance, and they are much less comfortable and perhaps even skeptical of instant messaging. They favor richer mediums like voice or face to face. So those are the boomers. They're pretty much voice or face to face, very skeptical, and may not even understand or use at all instant messaging. Then Gen X, that's my generation, people born between 1965 and 1980. They are 45 to 60 years old. So, middle to senior management typically have been in the work world for 20 to 30 years, have significant experience. And so they've been working a certain way for a lot of years. And Gen Xers tend to value clarity, brevity, and directness. They're comfortable with email, but they also really appreciate being consulted prior to in-person meetings. So if there's something that needs to be talked about rather than talking about it in the meeting, they just like a heads up. And these styles can vary a little bit, but that's generally true. I happen to be a Gen Xer who really doesn't love talking on the phone, but many Gen Xers do. And we also really do like to text and are open to using other mediums like Slack or Teams or things like that. But what we often find is Gen Xers can feel overwhelmed with the number of modes of communication. And my interns in the Career Innovation Lab hear it from me all the time. Either send me an email if it's something I need to think about and I can follow up with you and it's not urgent. Send me a text if you want my immediate attention. And then you can send me other things, but you might have to send me a text to tell me that you sent them to me and where you sent them. I wish that we could consolidate all the ways that we have to communicate, but we are where we are today. And then millennials, those are folks born from 1981 to 1996. They're 29 to 44 years old. Millennials are digital natives. So in their formative years, they had the phone in the hand, they had the Chromebook in school, and they prefer efficient, polished digital communication, email, LinkedIn, Slack. They really value authenticity and context on LinkedIn. They are sensitive to tone. They tend to be informal yet professional and understand that there's a balance there, and that's key. Gen Z. So I would imagine the vast majority of you who are on the call today or taking the professional development certificate, you were born between 1997 and 2012. You're between 13 to 28 years old. You aren't just a digital native, you were digital first. Many of you communicated with digital tools very early on. Studies tell us that you prefer instant messaging, visual content, including emojis and GIFs, a casual tone. Many of you in our studies, it says that you experience email anxiety due to the volume and formality, and you favor quick real time channels like Slack. You often default to an overly casual tone, which can come off as unprofessional, especially in an email. And so that's one area that we're going to talk about that you can guard against. But now that I've shared this profile of Gen Z from research, could you all give me an emoji in the chat, thumbs up, thumbs down, or your reaction to the description? Digital first, prefer instant messaging, visual content, emojis, GIFs, and you have email anxiety. So let me know in the chat what you think about that.
One thumbs up, one thumbs down so far.
Okay.
Two thumbs down so far.
Okay. So, if anyone who gave a thumbs down would be willing to share your personal perspective, I'd love to hear that because, again, when we're talking about the findings of research, it's a broad brushstroke, but that doesn't identify everybody. So, I'd love to hear your perspective. If you're willing to hop off mute, you're also welcome to turn your camera on, but don't feel pressured to do that. I'd love to hear from a thumbs downer what your perspective is.
Mark Ains said email anxiety. Good thing I don't have that.
Thanks for sharing, Mark. All right. Oh, I forgot to put millennial. I forgot to go on with my
And Mars said I actually have test anxiety, not email anxiety. I find text a bit more intimate and email less pressuring.
Okay. Mars, thank you for sharing. I find emails sometimes overwhelming when they're with the volume. And especially you all as students, I feel like you get so many emails. Um, but I appreciate that perspective, Mars. So the broader picture, so these are broad brushstrokes given here that can be generally true of the generations. But the broader dynamic that we're wanting to look at is when there is a misalignment of styles or preferences, there can be friction. So, for instance, a younger worker might see a phone call as intrusive or startling. I mean, I get startled when my phone rings. I'm not used to my phone ringing anymore. But boomers view texts as too abrupt and would be um they would not appreciate not having a phone call answered. And so what we're talking about is no matter what your perspective, understand that there might be a misalignment of styles and preferences. And so we want to learn to bridge that gap. The other thing that might happen is a jargon gap. And nearly half of Gen Z and millennials in one of our studies felt excluded by corporate language. Um, which prompted them to turn to tools to translate content to help them try and figure out what's being talked about. On the flip side of that, boomers and Gen Xers, there's a jargon gap when it comes to emojis. Sometimes I know the double meaning of emojis only because I work with college age students who are um, Gen Z or millennials. And so I understand that there are certain emojis that if you put it in a text to a boomer, it's fine. It means what the picture is. But if you put it in a text to a Gen Z or a millennial, that has a double meaning. And so we all can learn from each other. This is not the boomer way is right, the Gen X way is right, the millennial way is right, the Gen Z way is right. It's that they're different and we need to understand the differences so that we don't accidentally miscommunicate. So let's talk about some common communication pitfalls to avoid. The first one is overly casual language. I would say that you can start more formal and work your way down as you develop rapport with the person you're communicating with. You will almost never offend somebody by using their surname like Mr. or Miss or Doctor. You will offend someone by using their first name if they are in an older generation without being given permission to do so. And so knowing that, addressing them properly, but also using overly casual language. Think about what would I say to an a person in an older generation that I deeply respect versus what would I say to my friends at Tiger Town Tavern at 11 o'clock on a Saturday, you talk to those people differently. So I'm just asking you to keep that in mind. Another pitfall to avoid is vague or unclear purpose for your communication. If you're texting somebody in the older generation and you just send an emoji or you just send a question mark or you just send something that everyone your age would understand, just know that that is vague or unclear to the person receiving it if they're not part of your generation. Avoid excessive jargon, and that goes both directions, as we just talked about. Often there can be jargon used in industry by those who have been in the industry for many years, and you could consider using emojis and GIFs jargon as well that older generations might not understand. One word replies can often feel abrupt depending on who you're communicating with, and then inappropriate tone or emojis. And I will just say in professional communication, at least initially, avoid using emojis altogether. There is a time and a place when you've gotten to know your team. If your manager or supervisor has sent you an emoji, that is basically tells you it's okay. Our executive director here at the Career Center likes to send funny gifts. And so I know that I can send one back to him and that's okay. But I would never initiate sending one to our executive director until he sent me one first. So let's avoid those things because they can damage your professional credibility. You always want to consider the recipient's perspective and maintain professionalism. And when in doubt, you can ask ChatGPT to review it, but be sure to give ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever generative AI you use. If you use Gemini, um, ask ChatGPT to review your email. Don't put personal company information in there, but ask it to review your email and give some context. This is to my supervisor who is formal or informal or whatever. You just give it some context, talk about the recipient, and ask ChatGPT to review it for you. That can be a real help. You can also ask a peer or a colleague to review it for you as well, but sometimes it's just faster if you've got ChatGPT open to be able to do that. So, crafting professional emails, you want to make sure that you have a clear subject line, not a paragraph in the subject. You want to have a clear subject line addressing what you're talking about. You want a polite greeting and closing. And so, dear or hello, and the name with the surname is good. A concise body with a clear purpose. And then you want to keep a professional tone. You want to be respectful and polite. A strong email clearly communicates purpose, respects the reader's time, and reflects well on you and your professional judgment. And I always say, when in doubt, pause before you send it. Maybe take a walk around, clear your head, reread, and see, is this doing all the thing it needs to do? Or is this immediately going to cause them to come back to me with a question? The other thing I want to encourage you to do is if there have been more than two emails back and forth and there's still some confusion, get up and walk over to the person, call them, or request a quick Teams chat or Zoom so you can chat face to face. Once an email's gone back and forth twice and hasn't accomplished its goal, it's time to stop that email chain and communicate in a different mode. Okay. So let's look at an email before and after. So here's our before. Hey, can you send me that report ASAP? Thanks. Give me a reaction in the chat to what you think about that email. Judah, what are we seeing?
I was leaving my comment. I was just
Oh,
saying, sounds unprofessional and it sounds inconsiderate. But I'm also seeing way too casual, a down finger emoji. It's bad. So I think all the same.
okay. Now, this is where context really matters. What would your reaction be if this was a peer in a class project that you're working on? Would this be appropriate? And you can put your responses in the chat, please.
So one says it would be fine. I also think it would be fine. If it were from a peer to a classmate, it would be appropriate. So that's what I'm seeing.
Okay. And
Um,
that's oh, go ahead.
says it would be fine, but still unprofessional. I would prefer a bit more thought, I think.
Okay. So this is where context really matters and pausing, but instantly you all knew, like you assumed that this was in a work environment, which is a reasonable assumption based on what we're talking about. And we all knew, yep, this is too casual. Even if it's to a peer in a work environment, this is too casual. So, one way to think about approaching it is to give the formula that we talked about earlier. So the subject, request for monthly report. Really clear what it is. Hi, Jordan, could you please send me the monthly report by end of day today? Let me know if there's anything you need from me. Thanks so much in your name. What's our reaction to this one? Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments?
I left a thumbs up, but I'm also seeing more thumbs up. Perfectly good, nicely done. So all positive.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to then crafting a professional LinkedIn message. So you want to, well, I should back up before I even start talking about what you want to do. In this world that we live in today, where generative AI is changing what the world of work looks like, jobs are changing, entry level jobs are changing, and getting a job has gotten harder if you're trying to just send out your resume and get a call back. I heard a statistic yesterday. Time got access to Chat GPT and their integration with LinkedIn to see how many resumes are uploaded on LinkedIn per minute. So, how many resumes are uploaded for a job on LinkedIn per minute? Now, LinkedIn is worldwide, it's big. But let me ask you to drop in the chat. How many resumes do you think are uploaded to job postings per minute at LinkedIn? Drop your guess in the chat.
I'm seeing 10,100-ish. I guess 20,000.
Well, the 10,000 person wins the prize. It's 11,000 per minute. And that's because of the rise of generative AI. We can optimize our resumes, we can get all the keywords to the job posting plugged into our resumes and submit them very quickly. And so what that has caused is a massive influx of resumes. And so you need to understand, and recruiters need to understand, something is going to shift, something is going to change because that's not sustainable. And so what needs to change is how we communicate and how we look for jobs. And LinkedIn is an incredible platform for connecting with Clemson graduates, Clemson alumni who are in jobs that you're considering. It's a great place to connect with somebody who's 3 to 5 years farther down the path that you think you might like to go. And one of the things that we recommend is connecting through the Clemson alumni page with folks who are doing something you're interested in. And so when you're doing that, you can use this process to craft a really effective professional LinkedIn message. The first thing is to personalize it. So make it specific to the person. Don't write one message and just click and give it to to a bunch of different people. You want to personalize the message, which means you spent a little bit of time looking at their profile and looking for commonalities where you might connect. Then you want to briefly introduce yourself. I'm going to give you a sample on the next slide. Then you're going to clearly state your purpose for connecting. You want to be really clear about why you want to connect with this person. And then you want to mention common connections or interests. Okay. So let's look at an example. Hi, Dr. Smith. I'm a Clemson student interested in sustainability consulting. I saw we're both connected to Emily Jones, and I admire your work at Greenco. Could we connect? I'd love to learn more about your experience. Thanks, and your name. So let me ask you, what are your thoughts? Type a few words in the chat. What are your thoughts about this example of reaching out to someone on LinkedIn?
I'm seeing two, it sounds good. A total of three now. Everyone thinks it's good that has replied.
Notice that it's clear. They reference a common connection. It's a respectful tone. It's short, but it also shows that you've taken time to look at Dr. Smith's profile. You know that Dr. Smith works at Greenco, and you've actually learned enough about it that you admire it. You're not just shotgun blasting everybody. This is a more targeted look at somebody who's farther down a path that you're considering going down. So, this is one way that you could approach sending messages in LinkedIn. And I'll tell you, Clemson alumni are very generous with their time. They're often willing to talk to Clemson students, especially in a tough economy when it's difficult to find jobs. It's great to make a connection. And you're not making a connection to ask them for a job. You're making a connection to prototype what your future might look like. Ask them how they got there, what they enjoy about their work, what they don't like about their work. If they're willing to connect, make sure that you are using that time wisely by asking them good questions, listening well, and then make sure that you follow up with a thank you. A thank you via email or in LinkedIn is great. A handwritten thank you is amazing. I don't know when the last time is that you all received a handwritten thank you note. Generally receive a few per semester, and they always really stick out to me. They're really meaningful, and it's fun to get something other than junk mail. So that's always nice. All right, so that's our LinkedIn example. Let me talk a little bit about enhancing your professional image. So the first thing, and we're talking about enhancing your professional image as it directly relates to your communication style. So you want to consider your audience. How do they prefer to communicate? Excuse me. Learn their style and mirror it. So if your supervisor typically always emails you, that's probably their preferred mode of communication. But you could also just ask, do you prefer email? Do you prefer text? Do you prefer Slack or Teams? But mirroring how they're communicating with you, it's hard to go wrong. Then the other thing is think about your tone. You want to tailor your tone based on who you're addressing. When in doubt, you can lean formal and then adjust as you build rapport. In the professional development certificate, I often will have students send me messages and they either address me as Dr. Erickson, which I do not have my PhD, but that's okay. It's not wrong. They didn't know. Or Mrs. Erickson, which is perfectly acceptable. But generally, after the first email, I always tell people, you can call me Maggie. But I like when people assume the most formal and then give me the option to say, please call me Maggie, or you're welcome to call me Maggie. So lean formal and adjust as you build rapport. Then you want to select the right channel to communicate. That just shows professionalism and adaptability. And by channel, I mean considering the urgency, complexity, and the audience preference. So if there is something urgent that needs to be communicated, what I want to know from you all, what mode would you use? Phone, text, Slack, email? What would you all typically use if it was urgent?
I'm seeing 3 calls, 1 text, another 2 say phone. So that could be either text or call.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I think if it's urgent, you've got to get people on the thing that they're always holding, right? I'm not always holding my laptop, but I am always holding my phone. So texting or a phone call can be really effective. And so just understanding the urgency and then complexity. If this is a challenging thing to communicate, or you're needing to ask a lot of questions, you might consider sending an email to ask if they're available to meet via phone or Teams, because you don't want to go back and forth in an email chain 33 times. My rule generally is 2 to 3 emails back and forth. It's time to pick up a phone or hop on Teams or Zoom. And then also always consider the audience preference. And then practice with different generations. Peer feedback or superior feedback or subordinate feedback can help build critical thinking, collaboration, and leadership skills. And constructive critiques will help you improve future communications. So, practice with your parents or grandparents, or practice with your UPIC mentor or your supervisor at work. Learning different ways to communicate with different generations will make you more polished and professional. All right, so that's it for our presentation today. But I want to remind you all that we've talked a lot about communication in writing, but you also communicate a lot by how you dress. And we do have free unlimited business attire available in the Clemson Career Closet. That's in the Neary Visitor Building, room 270. You can go to Instagram to follow CU Career Closet for times that they are available. And our fall career counseling hours, I cannot believe that we're almost there, but I'm going to put up our fall hours now. We have drop-ins available in Cooper Library Monday through Friday from 1:30 to 3:30, 10 to 15-minute drop-ins. You don't need to call ahead. You just show up, and you typically can discuss one of the following: resume, cover letter, internships, job search. If you've got a job offer, now what do you do? Appointments are for a little bit longer conversation, and those appointments meet either at the Neary Alumni and Visitor Center, or you can request a virtual appointment. I will tell you that there's a bus, the Green Line, that will come out to Neary, and it picks up at multiple places on campus. And it's really beautiful out at Neary. So if you want to go on a little break from campus and come see the water and the golf course, it's a lovely place to come. Those appointments are 30 or 60 minutes. You need to schedule those through Clemson Job Link, typically a week out, and you can discuss multiple topics. And those are available Monday through Friday in the morning from 9:30 to 12, in the afternoon 1:30 to 4. We have several locations on campus where we can serve you. We are at Neary for appointments or virtually. We do come to Cooper Library, the Career Innovation Lab, which actually, let me skip next. Let me talk about how to book appointments. You go to Clemson Job Link on the CCPD website, click counseling and request a new appointment. And then the Career Innovation Lab. So we also meet in the libraries. We will reopen on August 27th. We meet on Wednesdays from 1:30 to 5:30 on the 3rd floor of Cooper Library in room 309. And you can drop in there for peer-to-peer coaching, no appointment needed. You can level up your AI prompting from certified peer coaches. And you can learn how to use design thinking and AI to imagine your future. It's really fun and a creative way to approach what sometimes can feel like a a daunting thing to plan out your career when you're in college and everything around you is shifting so quickly. So come have fun with your peers who have gone through that process, who probably had some hesitation at first. Would that include you, Judah?
Yes.
But now, what is your
I did.
perspective?
Yeah, I did it, and I can definitely say writing it out, but also kind of visualizing it with the artwork that went along with the Odyssey plan really did solidify those things. Some of my plans did get shaken up, but at the end of the day, at least I know I have a written plan and some sort of visual to help me, bring it into fruition.
Yeah. So we hope you'll come visit us in the Career Innovation Lab. We meet every Wednesday, starting August 27th, except for during the career fair and fall break. And then last but not least, you can scan the QR code if you didn't get a chance to scan it at the beginning to register your attendance. Please use your Clemson email. You can follow us on our social media channels. And I forgot to put up the Career Innovation Lab Instagram and LinkedIn. So I'll drop that in Canvas this afternoon when I drop the notes as well. And then I just want to pause and see if anybody has any questions.
I have a question. I don't have email anxiety, but I do like to keep a professional tone. I know you were saying your string of emails don't last longer than two or three emails. So when communicating through that string of emails, is it necessary to stay professional within each reply? Like saying good morning or good evening or something like that, and our email signatures required for every string.
That
Every,
is such a great question. So I say follow the sender's lead. Now
makes
that's when you're the recipient. So follow the sender's lead. If they say dear Judah every time or hello Judah, comma, and then go into it every single time, then I mirror that back.
makes
I
sense.
tend to, when I send an email, I start with all the pleasantries. It's kind of like when you walk into a room and I say, hi, Judah, how are you doing today? If I come out of my office, I don't say again, "Hi, Judah, how are you doing today?" Or "I hope this email finds you well." So I tend to drop the greeting. If it's the same day, I treat it almost like I walked in a room. There's no real hard and fast rule. Um, and I tend to also drop the sign off depending on how the conversation is going, but do know that that sometimes can communicate something. So if you've been going along and using both a greeting and a sign off, and then you suddenly stop, the recipient might think, are they upset? Are they frustrated? Are they rushed? Are they hurried? And so I would say maintaining some consistency throughout. It's a great question. Any other questions? All right. Well, I just want to thank you all so very much for being here today. Thank you for joining us for the Summer Professional Development Certificate. Next week, you'll get the opportunity to, we're going to record a video answering all of the questions that we've gotten from you over the summer. And you'll get a chance to watch that, but you also get a chance to provide us feedback. And I just want to say, we want your honest feedback. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? I've learned quite a few things about Canvas, so next year ought to be better. But do tell us how we can make this better. If there are things that we did that were really helpful for you, that's helpful for us to know too, so that we can keep doing them. And then if there's content that you really would like us to cover next summer, let us know. Many of the sessions this year were based on feedback that we got last year. So we take your feedback very seriously. We're grateful that you're here, and I hope that you have a great rest of your summer. If you're part of the Professional Development Certificate Program, you can expect your certificates when all of your work's been completed and graded. And I think the deadline we have for getting your certificates to you is sometime in August, but it's clearly noted in Canvas. So thank you all for being here today and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you. Enjoy your afternoons.
You too.